What's up everybody and welcome back to another video. Hooray! That was meant to be a bit more excited. Let's do that again. What's up everybody and welcome back to another video. Let's go. Season 2 is on the horizon, less than 2 weeks away. So I thought that I would make a video. I don't know what else to say. A video going over everything. My thoughts, my fears, basically everything. In a manner that makes sense. So really uncharacteristic of me. I want to talk about the era so far. I want to talk about Doctor Who in general. And of course, I want to talk about Doctor Who in the future. Ooh. So I've left timestamps below. I'm feeling really uncharacteristic today. We're doing things totally differently. We got timestamps. We got a script, kinda. But before we get into all that, before we get into the video, can I just say as a message to every single one of you watching the video, thank you all so much for 25,000 subscribers. It is unbelievable to me. Words cannot describe how grateful I am to every single one of you. All of you, what did I bump? Every single one of you, all of you who have been supporting the channel since day one. Those of you who I see in the comment section every video. Those of you who decide to comment once, but I know you've been subscribed for ages. I see you guys, and I do it all for you. This shit means something to me.
This shit means something to me, man.
That is serious. So I hope to pay it forward. So let's get right into the video. Before we move on to season 2, it is time to look back on season 1. Or series 14, as everyone likes to call it. What is with this reboot thing, man? I've been given a lot of thought to this. As I do with pretty much everything in Doctor Who, it comes to a point where I genuinely, unironically believe that there is no one on this planet who thinks about Doctor Who more than me. This is genuinely truthful. I think about it when I'm walking down the street. I think about it obviously when I'm making videos, before I go to sleep, while I'm eating. Pretty much while I'm doing everything is basically my job. And so obviously I do understand the pros and cons of the seasonal reset. I get it from their perspective. It took me a while, but I do understand it. That's a lie. I understood intuitively immediately, but also as I am someone who puts so much thought into these things, I also understood all of the cons, which led me to saying, hopefully my reaction to it being called season 1 is on the channel. That's what led me to saying, what are they doing? This is such a bad idea. But that's because I understood the first step of the thought process. It seems so good on paper, but in practice it's very risky. But remember, they're coming into this 2 years behind us. Television is a very bureaucratic system, especially when you're working with the big old BBC. They probably made the decision to split the TV show into something new in around 2021? 2022 maximum. That's almost 3 years ago. And it is an impressive gambit. You can see how after something like Flux and maybe just the Chibnall era in general, they might want to do something new. And that's me just coming at it honestly. You guys know me. You guys know that I love the Chibnall era. I love it. I don't just like it, I love it. I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's pretty good. I genuinely love it. But a lot of people didn't. So I guess a series reset, a break, something to separate this Doctor Who from what just came before, I suppose that kind of makes sense. But now on to the reasons why it doesn't make sense. Number one, it's the same show. This is the big problem and kind of the main failing of this new era. As someone who likes it a lot, it is too similar. That's just undeniable. New Doctor Who just celebrated its 20th anniversary and the basic format and formula for episodes has more or less not changed whatsoever. And just to let you guys know, I have been complaining about the 45-minute format that they just insist on sticking with for over a decade and a half now. I could make that video, and I probably should, about why this format sucks and also all of the caveats that people say, oh, if it was an hour that would fix it. But we have seen that they've made episodes an hour and they struggle with all of the exact same problems that 45-minute stories struggle with. But beyond that, the simple fact is there is nothing, and I genuinely mean nothing, that separates this show, the Doctor Who 2023 to 2025, from this one. one, Doctor Who 2005 to 2022. Not stylistically, not who's in charge, not who plays the main character, not the continuity. There is nothing separating these two shows. There isn't even a gap in time. This would be like if season 2 of Clone Wars and season 3 of Clone Wars were totally different shows that were both called Star Wars The Clone Wars. They're exactly the same show. Maybe they could have gotten away with it if David Tennant wasn't the 14th Doctor, but then you've got your second biggest problem, David Tennant being the 14th Doctor. It's already just silly and annoying and kind of itches at your brain whenever you look at the pictures or posters of Doctor Who lineups, but it just totally shatters all of the world building of this new era, and I don't really understand how it doesn't for some people. I hate to be that kind of hater guy and be like, you have to dislike this. Obviously you don't, right? If you like something, who the fuck cares what I think? But the people who act like I'm crazy for wondering where he is, I'm sorry, but he had to go at the end of the giggle. I hate, no, seriously, I genuinely hate when people say, oh, but why don't all of the other Doctors show up? The other Doctors are dead, right? They are gone. Their time on the show is over. That is what regeneration is for. The 14th Doctor's character is not dead. Their ending not only sucks, but it isn't an ending. They're still right there. Now, I could go into the nerd lore version, explain why it's bad from that perspective and say, but the time tracks. But that isn't it. That isn't why it doesn't work. It's the emotion and logic of the story. In 73 Yards, when Shooter Doctor disappears, did the 14th Doctor disappear too? Are there two Sutecs on both TARDISes? Did the 14th Doctor die in Empire of Death too? These aren't small questions. I would argue that these are the literal first things you think of. And I know for a fact that they spend literally thousands of hours in tone meetings discussing this stuff. And I know for a fact that these conversations have come up over and over again. So I don't really know why something hasn't been done about it. And also, I do think it's fair to say that the seasonal reset has come back to bite Neo New Who right in the arse. And they're just better off re-including it in regular New Who at this point, because, I mean, it's almost actively damaging for the reasons I've mentioned in other videos. I don't want to bore you by repeating myself. But with all that said, I think the fact that I'm able to recognize these problems speaks volumes to the fact that when I say that Series 14 is some of the best Doctor Who we've gotten in over a decade and a half, I'm not just saying that shit. I mean it. I'm not a shill. I'm not paid off. I can criticize real fundamental problems with this era and the last and the one before that, but I really like Series 14 more than I thought I would, and more than I probably should, all things considered. The 60th anniversary specials range from fine to very entertaining, but the step up in quality for most of season 1 is just insane to me. I thought the Wobbly Under was terrific, and the Giggle was a fittingly epic and familiar Russell T Davies finale that I thoroughly enjoyed bar the last 5 minutes, but stories like Boom or 73 Yards are just a cut above for me. Dawn Bubble 2 is shockingly good, like really quite spectacular. The Devil's Court is practically flawless on my end, with the main con being the casting of the Beatles, I suppose. Doesn't really bother me, as they're barely in it, but I can get why some people dislike that. The episode itself though, it's structured actually perfectly. Ironically, it's like when an orchestra all go off in harmony and you're just sat there in awe. Rogue is my least favourite of the season. Not because it's bad or anything, it's not, but because there isn't really a lot for me to talk about in it. The most noteworthy event is a Schalke Doctor cameo, and this is just how I watch Doctor Who, but I'm not really a moment-oriented watcher. Let me expand on this real quick. A lot of people enjoy watching Doctor Who in the form of clips, or maybe like YouTube shorts or TikToks. Great moments get clipped, you see them, you love them. I have nothing against that. And sure, this is a neat moment, fun for all the fans out there, but what do I have to talk about with it? Nothing. It's just kind of a moment. There's some great location work, matte paintings. I enjoy this puffin looking guy. The costumes are great. It's a perfectly serviceable episode of Doctor Who, but perfectly serviceable in a season of good to great episodes leaves it unfortunately at the bottom. And this is why I started this section by talking critically about the areas of this era that I maybe dislike, the seasonal reset and the 14th Doctor, so that when I could move into this segment, you could realize that I'm not some Omega biased promo YouTuber. Oh, isn't this cool? Everything's great. Everything's wonderful. Hip hip hooray. Now, my mission statement for this channel is to always say it how it is, or at the very least, always tell my opinion on stuff honestly, because it genuinely takes bravery for me to say these things, and that's why I say them. I see a lot of commenters, and I find this very sad, falling into a blueprint. The fandom consensus is the term that I've coined, where a lot of people, instead of saying their opinion, just regurgitate what they think the fandom is, what is an acceptable opinion, instead of just owning what they own and liking what they don't. And I just find it so weird, because in this world of fandom consensuses, there is not one thing that you can get all Doctor Who fans to agree on. Hell, there's probably not 2 Doctor Who fans who you could find that agree on everything. I've been in this fandom long enough to realize that opinions differ on pretty much every single episode / aspect / element of this program. So I definitely do find it very silly when I see a comment, I don't know how to describe this, a comment where someone says, oh, DW fan, he's great, but I don't agree with him on everything. Obviously you don't agree with me on everything, I don't agree with you on everything. But anyway, all of that to say, Empire of Death isn't that bad, and Space Babies is genuinely pretty good. Just talk to the hand, man. Let's start with Empire of Death, because a lot of people hate this episode, and some people call it the worst episode ever. Some people also call Space Babies the worst episode ever. But where's my evidence? Let's break it down, people. This story does have a few disappointing elements, right? It would be foolish of me to deny that. But I feel like the most disappointing element was how they revealed a lot of the plot twists that audiences found underwhelming. Rewording that slightly, a lot of these plot twists that audiences found underwhelming wouldn't have been as underwhelming if they weren't revealed in such a disappointing way. Ruby's mum, being a regular person, could be an exciting reveal if it was incorporated into any of the action and not just tacked on at the end in a boring and mundane 15-minute epilogue sequence. That's where the episode just crumbles to dust. By the way, for the record, I do still think there's a bit more to this storyline than meets the eye, so we're gonna have to watch this space, I guess. But I still think that with all of the same elements, if given a bit more time on the back end, they could have made a considerably better episode. With that said, I actually don't think that the episode is bad. For me, pretty much everything else works. The Sutekh stuff, the end of the universe stuff, I like it. Although I do wish that they hadn't cut out the action set pieces or the whistle gag. I don't necessarily have a problem with people calling Empire of Death disappointing, but when people throw around labels like the worst episode ever or the worst finale ever, I just think we'll get a bit of perspective, you know what I mean? When people rag on Empire of Death, because while I enjoy it, I do kind of get it. In fact, I fully get it. I understand why people don't like that episode, and they are fully entitled to. The Space Babies. Space Babies I will defend with my life, okay? I liked Love and Monsters then, and I will like Space Babies now. It is fun, okay? Yes, the first scene with the exposition trauma dump is pretty forced and bad, and was obviously the last thing shot for the season, the last second due to a Disney note, but the rest is good, man. Most of the criticisms that I have seen for the episode come from the concept alone, so I suppose if you just can't handle the concept, then the rest of the episode will completely fall flat for you. But I also think that that applies to every episode of Doctor Who. What? So you're saying that there are babies on a space station? What? So you're saying that there are rhinos on the moon? What? So you're saying that there's fat farty monsters in Politicians? What? So you're saying there are Daleks in Manhattan? What? So you're saying there's James Corden in a house? I like this season quite a bit. Ncuti Gatwa is electric, Ruby is highly sympathetic, the ideas and stories here are brilliant, the execution is spectacular, the visuals and direction, and basically everything from a technical standpoint is just a marvel to behold. But even still, I do feel saddened by the 8-episode runtime. I've talked about this before. Technically, you can't throw this on them, because obviously if they had a magic wand to say more Doctor Who, they would do it. But still, it is so felt. And it's honestly quite depressing. I'll talk about that more a bit later in the video. Speaking of stuff I've talked about, my response to the criticism of Series 14 has been well documented, what with 9 community reaction videos under my belt and an overall review clocking in at over 2 hours. But I still want to talk about it some more, man. I find it interesting. Come on, surely you guys too, that sweet, succulent drama. They clearly invested a hell of a lot into this new reboot in quotation marks, and I hate to say it guys, but it has not gone too well. I mean, this is just undeniable at this point. But with that said, and we'll talk about this more in the future section of the video, there are different layers to the criticism of modern Doctor Who, of this new series. It's like a three-body problem. There are totally separate but also entirely interwoven reasons why this new reboot of Doctor Who wasn't Omega successful, and I want to go over each of them, or at least most of them, but not in one go. Not even I can do that. So I'm gonna split them up and talk about them over the course of the video. There are some reasons, some factors that I've already talked about quite a bit, and there are some that I have yet to discuss. And I think the main thing that I want to focus on at this part of the video is the stuff that I don't think is a problem. Namely, the writing. It is no secret that I think the term bad writing has become synonymous with lazy internet critique. Now, I'm not saying that there is no such thing as bad writing, or that when someone says it, the term is completely meaningless. But what I am saying is that it's almost meaningless. It's almost at that point. When someone used to say bad writing, it used to be about like the Transformers movies, or stuff that we all knew was bad. Now, bad writing is just basically everything. Apparently everything has bad writing, even good stuff. Even good stuff has bad writing. When people say, for example, Avatar: The Last Airbender, great show. When people say that this series has bad writing because, I don't know, Zuko should have ended up with Katara or something, or blah 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 blah. That's about the point where I'm like, do you realize that the fact you're invested enough to care about those characters and all of that, surely you have to realize that it can't all be bad writing. This is what I mean, okay? The good writing and the bad writing are all a part of the same writing. They're all part of the same mechanism, right? Some parts get sacrificed for others to elevate, but you can't judge them in isolation because they're all a part of the same thing. That's not to say that there can't be bad lines in an otherwise great piece of fiction, but now we're moving into a totally separate topic in the territory of what is writing, and that's just something different entirely. Something you realize when you do these things yourself is that the dialogue and the situations and the scenarios and the characters and all of that, they all fall under the umbrella of writing. So if you want to be critical, most of the time you have to be more specific. Now, that's not to say that you can't sometimes say that something has bad writing and be correct. You definitely can. But my point is that the term has become so diluted nowadays that it becomes incredibly difficult for it to actually mean anything. Case in point, Boom and Dot and Bubble. And you know what? 73 Yards as well, just for the hell of it. People say that these episodes have bad writing, but they very obviously don't. A lot of their criticisms don't actually boil down to the writing at all. And same with the series in general. A lot of the criticisms are actually just pointless. They're filler criticisms, disguising the true criticism, which is, I don't like the vibes. Which, for the record, isn't an invalid criticism. But, even if only subconsciously, a lot of people know that if they were to say that and not something else, they would be easily disregarded. For the record, I think disliking the vibes of something, a shapeless, formless sort of dislike, I think that that is still a valuable criticism to make. And most of the general audience won't be able to actually voice what or why they dislike something, meaning it's still a valuable way to understand what people like and don't like. But still, it can be a bit annoying when people are so deceptive in their critiques, whether they realize they're being or not. I guess it's kind of difficult because the term bad writing has so many meanings, some of which are applicable to pretty much everything and some of which are applicable to only specific niche cases. And of course, you've got to realize the context of what the show is, what the show's trying to be. I would call something like Big Bang Theory poorly written, but maybe that's because I'm a snobbish asshole, and to the audience that Big Bang Theory is written for, that writing is actually really good. And that isn't even me trying to take the high ground and say, I actually only like good shows. For what Big Bang Theory is, it is immensely, generationally successful. Very, very, very few shows have seen the level of popularity that Big Bang Theory has. For context, Doctor Who has not seen the level of success that Big Bang Theory has, so who am I to say that it's poorly written? Well, I am DW Fan 91 because I do think it. But again, it's all about context. In my videos, I have said many times that Doctor Who fans never really change, and that a lot of their criticisms for the series don't really change either. People say the same thing that they have been moaning about on repeat for years. I was actually going to make a video about this, and it was going to be called something along the lines of why does Doctor Who keep repeating itself, or Doctor Who's cycle of showrunner hate, or something like that. But I dropped the video because I felt it was a bit too negative. I don't believe in destiny, I don't believe in fate, but it is uncanny how accurate these cycles of showrunner hate, or just cycles of Doctor Who criticism in general are. They really are identical. My video that I dropped was far too pessimistic. My thesis was basically that the Doctor Who fandom was born in the 1980s, and those ideals, those standards set by fans in the 1980s became baked into the show as a whole, and so they get repeated again and again ad nauseum like a cycle of abuse. And that sounds kind of sci-fi when I say it like that, like it's programmed into us. Ooh. But it genuinely felt like there was no other explanation. Fans now, with no interaction with older fans, with no way of knowing that people complained about the exact same thing 20, 30, 40 years ago, say the same exact thing as people 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's like clockwork. It's almost inexplicable. Some people stay saying the same stuff, and that at least makes sense. But what's weird is when new people come in and they don't even realize that they're saying the same stuff. How the hell do you tell these new people, this young generation, that they're saying the exact same stuff as the people that came before them? How would you possibly convince someone of that? They're never gonna believe it.
Last night's ratings for Silence in the Library were only 5.4 million, and was beaten in its time slot by Britain's Got Talent, which got a staggering 11 million viewers. For the first time since it came back again, the program tumbled out of the TV20 and almost out of the top 30. What a thrashing. Looks like RTD's dog has had its day and now it's time to put it to rest. Obviously RTD has fucked up big time, and viewers are showing their disapproval by turning over in droves to see if anything better is on the other side. Even Peter Davison's Time Flight episode 1 got better positioning than that.
Looks like Moffat is going to destroy the show if this is how the public reacts to his stories. Maybe Rob is right and the show should be cancelled once RTD has left.
Nonsense. They clearly can't be bothered to tune in anymore after being bored shitless by 4 years of RTD's drivel.
No, I think you are right. This slaughter should not be allowed. RTD should stay or Moffat replaced immediately.
More like RTD should go now, rather than us all subjected to another 8 episodes of his shite. I'll be surprised if there's as much as 3 million of the audience left by the time Moffat finally gets to take over.
Okay, enough of that. Jumping back to 2025, we are now in the present. The new season will shortly begin, and how am I feeling? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It's strange because last year with those trailers and when all of that stuff came out, there was so much apprehension. You guys remember it, right? So many videos of me being, I'm concerned, the failed reboot, etc. etc. And now, here I am thinking, this looks brilliant, because it does. It really does. I can't say enough how much I'm looking forward to this new series of Doctor Who. But there's also a kind of somber nature to it. Am I the only one feeling that? Maybe I am. I hope I am. I hope you guys have caught on to the fact that now, no matter what comes out, I'm always going to make a video called Why I'm Concerned for Such and Such, because I just think it's a funny title. But with this last one, I don't know, it felt almost defeated. Now, for me, the quality of season 2 isn't really a question. I like last series. This looks better than last series. The new actress, Vedada Sethu, was one of my favorite parts of last series, and I've been her main champion for about the last 8 months on this website. So there's not really a lot for me to be concerned about there, but the show might be going away. It might be. We'll talk about that. So none of that really matters anymore, does it? It's like the late McCoy era, where its fate was was already sealed, even though it had gotten really good. Again, I'll talk about the parallels there in the future segment, but linking it back to the last video, you know, the one I didn't make, don't you guys think it's funny that we had the 9th Doctor and the 3rd Doctor so similar in so many ways, followed by the 10th Doctor and the 4th Doctor so similar in so many ways, followed by the 11th Doctor and the 5th Doctor so similar in so many ways, 12 and 6, 13 and 7, now 14/15 with 8. I mean, it's uncanny. Am I the only one who sees this? How often does Doctor Who repeat itself, folks? I could go on about it all day, and I probably should still make that video, but it's hard not to be bummed out. It's hard not to see that they're releasing it in 8 in the morning, and that the numbers are gonna get even lower, and that the hate brigade is gonna come out of the woodwork yet again. And the only thing sadder than seeing that barrage of hate videos is knowing that the only reason there aren't as many compared to last year is because the show underperformed and isn't as successful as even the haters wanted it to be. They wanted to farm it, man. It's a symbiotic parasitic relationship, right? If the show did well, or well enough, they could farm it for more content. Man, Space Babies last year, I have never seen hate for the show like it. It made that weekend where The Timeless Child came out look like a regular Sunday. It is the most hate that I've ever seen towards Doctor Who, and I don't think we'll ever see that again, which I suppose is good, but it's also a little sad. The Robot Revolution looks like a very fun, very enjoyable, very high quality episode of Doctor Who that I'm sure I will love and adore, but sadly I don't know if it's enough to bring back the audience that just aren't fully locked in and along for the ride, which would be fine. It would be completely fine if this were a series 15. People expect long-running series to get by on their niche and loyal fan bases. Seeing a 15th series of a TV show doing just alright is not frowned upon in the slightest. In fact, it's perfectly normal. But new shows starting out on their 1st and 2nd seasons, not so much. It's hard now because this video is feeling very pessimistic, and I could go into how partnering with Disney in this climate was very risky and poorly thought out, but also they had no way of knowing that because when they made the decision, Disney wasn't widely as hated as it would rapidly become, even though it still kind of was. And how a lot of that hate on that Space Babies weekend was pretty much an overwhelming scream from the American mainstream of rejection. Now when I say the American mainstream, I'm talking about that Big Bang Theory audience from last segment. People who watch the Super Bowl, people who watch WWE, the real classic American mainstream. Not like the American fans of Doctor who are definitely not part of the mainstream, even though they were very big. This is the thing with America, is that every single thing is massive. So even the niche groups are massive. But when you get shown to the mainstream, that is just such a widely unimaginable amount of people that if it isn't widely accepted, the hate that you receive is going to be inconceivable and incomparable compared to anything that you've seen before. I mean, Britain is the size of one state. Doctor Who being shown to the American mainstream is the equivalent of showing Doctor Who to 52 Britons. And sadly, those mainstream Americans, I mean, I could have told you this for free because we already did this experiment with the 1996 TV movie. But the average American, they just don't like Doctor Who. They don't connect with the themes, the ideals, the messaging, the adventure. They just don't connect with it. And I can kind of understand that. I mean, I personally think that Doctor Who is almost universal, but it isn't. It's not universal to people in the Deep South or hell, even people in North America, man. The only way to really get those people into watching Doctor Who is to come at them at an angle of this isn't a mainstream American show. This is a niche program. This is something from a different cultural background. Similar to how anime is able to be so successful in America. It's successful because it is wholeheartedly Japanese and it doesn't appeal to Americans whatsoever. That lack of appeal, ironically in a paradoxical way, is the appeal. And similarly, that's what Doctor Who should have done. Pandered too much to the American audience, that turned off the American audience. They're almost incompatible. It's like oil and water, kind of. And I feel like it's important to talk about this stuff. Not too much. Not every conversation. Not every conversation needs to be, where did Doctor Who And now I really am beginning to sound pessimistic, but I assure you that I am not. Where I'm coming at it with this video is that I want this to be my genuine, honest feelings about the series, my thoughts on season 2, and how I am feeling about the show going into season 2 is positive but realistic. Realistically, the 8 AM time slot followed on from the poor word of mouth from last year means that this new series is very unlikely to be a hit. It's just the long and short of it, okay? And the main reason behind Series 14's underperformance, and this is the God-given truth, okay, is that midnight time slot. I've gone over it again and again, but let me explain one more time in very simple terms. The 60th anniversary specials did well. Shooting Gatwa's first episode did very well. It was #1 on Christmas. Follow me here. It did well on Christmas. It had good word of mouth. It was releasing only 4 months after Christmas. How did the numbers get sliced in half? Only thing that changed, it came out at midnight. How are people gonna say, oh, it's because the writing was bad, yet the first episode had its viewers halved? People didn't even know if it was bad yet. They liked the last episode. That one was very popular. It came out only 4 months ago. The most damning piece of anecdotal evidence, and I've said this on the channel before, was my 9-year-old cousins with the Church on Ruby Road, right? Let me set the scene, okay? We met up for Boxing Day after the episode, and they were loving it. They're talking about how much they loved it. The goblins were scary. It was their first ever Doctor Who that they'd seen live. Ncuti Gatwa is their Doctor. Skip ahead to New Who. 4 months later, hadn't even watched. Word on the playground was that it had been Disneyfied. It was terrible now, apparently. Disneyfied is such an interesting term. Disney in the big 2025 is like a bad word for children. Even though they love Disney stuff. They love the animated films, the brands, the legacy, but because of media and reviewers and culture and all of that, people associate Disneyfied with a negative connotation. And yeah, they definitely would have watched it if it didn't come out at midnight. It isn't even up for debate. You also totally ruin your whole social media presence by dropping it at midnight. Basically, they tanked all their momentum right at the starting line. Season 2 isn't going to move that momentum after an even longer gap, a worse time slot and worse word of mouth, so I don't know. 8 AM really sucks. After considering it might not be worse than midnight. That might have been a split decision thing where I was like, it's worse than midnight. Midnight was just hellish, man. But at the end of the day, it still fucking sucks. People say to me, oh, but you complained about midnight, but you complain when they change it? Yes. Air at the same time, you donuts. There genuinely isn't a single good argument for why they don't just air it at the same time. But the BBC do this with all their shows. And that's why all their shows fucking flop. Name one BBC show that's doing well with this model. None of them. Basically, you're airing a rerun in its first time slot and expecting it to perform well. Spoiler alert, it won't. There's no incentive, no reason to actually sit down and watch. Me, DW Fan 91, did not watch Series 14 when it aired at 6:30. Me, if I didn't, no one did. Well, obviously some people did, but you get the point. Russell T Davies said he did. You and 3 other people. Russell T Davies watches shows when they air because he says he can get a feel of the room, the audience reaction. We watched it 18 hours ago, you numpty. Get with the program, Grandad. The core audience watch at midnight or 8 AM. Then they post and spoil about it all over social media. The average audience member wakes up, scrolls for a second, sees all of the main details, and then goes on with their day, probably having forgotten that they even saw anything about Doctor Who 10 seconds after they saw it. That's just how people work. Social media posts can tell you a lot about a show, specifically what is and isn't in it. If you wake up the morning Rogue aired, for example, you might see on your timeline, oh my god, Schalke Doctor confirmed. You might see that as the first post, first thing after waking up. You'll scroll for a second, see there's not much else in the episode by the fact that that's the main thing that anyone's talked about and the fact that there isn't actually that many posts about the show. You see that nothing else happened, no incentive to watch, that person doesn't watch. You see, it's rather complicated to explain because you really have to be in the know and understand like the audience behavior, but that's why I think it's also a valuable critique. It's a layered and complex issue, but if I really had to simple it down and water it down, I would say obviously air it at the same time. There is no drawback. I imagine that Disney is the one behind this change, so I guess we can officially say that they killed Doctor Who? Question mark. That's also the thing. If I'm honest, if you put a gun to my head, I'm not really super mega sad if this new era doesn't do too well, because I don't really like Disney and I don't really like them being involved. So I hate to toot my own horn, but I was kind of in a win-win scenario here. If the show did well, that means that the show I love is doing well, and hooray, new golden age, woohoo! But if it didn't do well, then that means that Disney leaves the show that I love, so hooray, Disney is gone, woohoo! Now, I do understand that a streaming service basically needed to provide the funds for what the BBC wanted Doctor Who to be. But I also think that that's because the BBC was mistaken on what they wanted Doctor Who to be. What they wanted it to be like was a Marvel Disney Plus show. Or maybe, being a bit more kind, they wanted it to be like a Stranger Things type show. Doctor Who isn't that kind of TV show. I'll talk about this more in the next section, but bringing us back to Series 2, looking back at the episode titles, they really do all seem great. I love the clip of Belinda and the Doctor with the Padam Padam. I love the look of Belinda, the look of the Doctor. These characters are already just so fun and well defined. Each episode has its own distinct look and personality. The season has its own structure, the journey to bring Belinda home. Ruby has her own subplots. Unit, we're back with them yet again. I love returning to the same place. We've got many mysteries, Conrad, Mrs. Flood. That trailer, man, I mean, it just looked fun. And somehow, the visuals have taken another leap yet again. They just keep making drastic strides. Series 14 looks head and shoulders above the 60th specials, which visually weren't that impressive in my opinion. And while Series 14 definitely looked very pretty, the colour palette of most episodes wasn't something I really jived with. It just seemed a bit too bright. Does that make sense? Someone made a great comment about it last time I brought this up and I've totally forgotten. But it's difficult to describe, but with Series 15, with its darker colours, it just so appeals to me so much more. I wonder now, in retrospect, if maybe combining these two series into one series and then releasing it now might have been the move. Of course, they never would have known that, so it's not like I'm saying, well, obviously do that. There's 0% chance that they could have known that. But at the same time, I'm just wondering as a thought experiment, would that have been successful? I don't know. I genuinely think that Series 14 has the same pros and cons as a typical Russell T Davies series and is generally quite as good, but the low episode count stops me from saying that it is as good. I mean, how can I say that this series is as good as this series when it has almost half the episode count? Even if each individual episode is great, how can a series of 8 good individual episodes match to a series of 13 good individual episodes? It's just unfair. Perhaps a series of 16 would have had a much better chance. I'm definitely beginning to value quantity in Doctor Who these days. A lot of the criticism that I found comes from there not being enough space to really bury yourself in. Not enough episodes, not enough trees in the forest. Couple that with the fact that Russell T Davies is a magician who we know all the tricks of, and you have a double act of a series where we kind of know everything about it. We know all of the thought processes and where things will go. To bring it back to that forest metaphor, it just feels very barren. It feels like a small island with just a few palm trees. Doctor Who is meant to be this vast expanse with like 1 billion episodes and 1 trillion series. So many adventures that you'll never be able to find them all. And in my opinion, Doctor Who is at its best when you're a kid and you don't know all the episodes. Maybe it's just me talking here, but knowing too much about it is both a blessing and a curse. So now we're finally here, the future of Doctor Who. I've made 2 videos talking about it now, but I feel like I still have a lot to say. Will there be a Series 3? It's a big question, and my answer is of course disappointing. We gotta wait and see. It's just the truth of it. Do I want a Series 3? Yes I do. I do actually. I would love one. Do I think it's likely? Okay, if you put a gun to my head and said, answer honestly, what I would tell you is that I think that there will be a series of specials, kind of similar to the 60th anniversary, and those will be the form of how Doctor Who continues for probably the next 2 or 3 years. A few specials every now and then. That's my genuine guess, but there are other alternatives as well. Series 3 may go down to 3 or 4 episodes a year, but I just find it difficult to think that Doctor Who will ever be fully gone. The reason I don't think a full season 3 is likely is that statement from the brand manager of Doctor who called it resilient and basically skirted majorly around the topic of the future.
And obviously Doctor Who as a brand, absolutely incredible. It's been going for so long. There are always people who say pretty much every year and get shut down. It's going to get cancelled. It's not going to last. What would you say about the strength of Doctor Who's brand in response to kind of things like that?
I think Doctor Who will always be around in people's hearts and minds, and it'll never go away in that respect, right? It's been around for 60 years. It'll continue to be around.
Stop! He's already dead.
Very quickly, Series 3. Anyone know anything? Series 3?
I don't know.
I'm asking you guys. You should know more than me.
I don't know anything.
I kind of know that the Doctor's reached the status like Robin Hood. Sometimes there might be a pause, and during that pause, the viewers of Newsround Now will grow up a few years and start writing stories, and they'll bring it back. So I have absolute faith that will survive, because I'm living proof of it. And that's what happens to good ideas. No good idea ever dies.
What does the future hold for Doctor Who beyond season 2? How far ahead are you?
We're not, it's like, as is really commonly known, there's no decision until after series 3. It's funny because even people who work on the show thinks that means we're having secret meetings about it. People I work with every day go, yeah, what's really happening? And I'm going, nothing. No meetings, nothing. That's when the decision is. And the decision wouldn't be made by the people we work with at Disney Plus. It would be made by someone in a big office somewhere. So literally nothing happening, no decision. We're ready with just different plans. Could go this way, could go that way, could go that way. That's our job, to be ready. We're ready anyway. But we'll find out. Yeah. Dying to find out. Hope he comes back.
And we've got season 2 before all of that to enjoy.
Exactly.
And a brand manager's job is to basically get people to invest in the future. So usually they're meant to hype that shit up. That's like their whole job, right? If even they're not hype, well then I can't be, you know what I mean? But I can't be mad either. It just is what it is. Me personally, I'm glad that I just got 2 spectacular series with a cast and a crew that I dearly adore. As a fan of the show, what more can I ask for? The success and acclaim is great, and I always root for Doctor Who. But I'm a fan. I'm not in charge. Yet. So I look at it through the lens of my enjoyment. Do I like it? Yes. Then everything else doesn't really matter. The end of the Sylvester McCoy run is brilliant, and they were working entirely on borrowed time. The death warrant on classic Doctor Who had been signed long ago. The moment that Michael Grade saw that marker was the moment it had died, okay? It just didn't know it. But they still made something wonderful and timeless. I watch Remembrance of the Daleks every year since I was just this small, just a tiny little baby, and I will continue to forever. These stories, Doctor Who, they will never die. And it's the same with this new stuff. As a fan of Doctor Who, the reason I stick around is to be rewarded by new stuff to love. And I can safely say, for myself, that I have been rewarded. It's beginning to sound like I'm at an obituary. Look, I don't think Doctor Who's gone yet, but wouldn't it be crazy if they somehow stuck it out to 26 years, just like the original? Please! That would be crazy. I actually think that's what's gonna happen, by the way. These cycles of Doctor Who history, they never stop repeating. Happy 20 years, Doctor Who. It is a little sad that for the first 10 years of New Who, we had 9 series and about 120 episodes of the show, give or take. And for the last 10 years of New Who, we've had 6 series, half of which have been mini-series, and around 60 episodes of the show. God, this video is pessimistic. I hope everyone can understand that I'm not being a hater, okay? I'm just being honest. Will season 2 turn things around? It's a loaded question, okay? Because I don't think season 2 needs to turn things around. Because I think the quality is pretty good already, and definitely not the problem. But at the same time, no, I don't think so. Because the show doesn't really have a lot of hype or momentum or crazy word of mouth, and a lot of these episodes look to be about on the same level, if not a little bit better than last year. I just find it unbelievable that even with a season that could be comprised entirely of 73 yards level episodes, real 10 out of 10 shit every time, I still don't know if that would be enough to be the Omega level win that this would need to be to succeed. Which I just find crazy, and I mean, I suppose it's a little bit sad, but at the same time, I mean, I still think it's going to be very good. They've released this trailers, or teasers should I say. There's about 4 of them, and it's the Doctor Who going into other shows. They're going the long way round, so they go to some race, the Chasers or whatever it's called, the Traitors or whatever it's called, The Apprentice. That one is my favorite. That one was very funny. And EastEnders, and I love the promo here. And unlike last year, I mean, I suppose I have got my qualms with the marketing, but realistically for series 15 I can't really say that there are any problems with the marketing, unlike series 14 and 13 and 12. But man, I do find it a shame that I don't know if that's going to be enough. I am looking forward to it. I do think it will be amazing. Every single thing that I have to say about the episodes in season 2, the characters, the story, the season itself, everything that I have to say is positive. But it's an accumulative effect. Doctor Who was knocked down in Series 9 about 10 years ago. Series 10 was a definite take-a-knee moment. Series 11 was a successful revitalization, but it was meant to be sustainable, and it just ended up being more of a booster jab. It was meant to stick around, but it kind of didn't. Ironically, then came COVID, and Flux continued the trend. If you look at all of these figures, you can see what I mean, right? Series 11 was a jab in the arm, but then it continued exactly on the same path that it had been since 2015. Word of mouth after Series 12 was also pretty bad, with the controversial Timeless Child. Then we had the 60th, which had hype behind it, but the Star Beast again was slightly controversial. Overall, even though it wasn't a flop or a fumble, I don't think the 60th was the revitalization that the show needed. And then the midnight release date just sabotaged Series 1, and boom, we have 3 unsuccessful reboots in a row. I mean, damn, Doctor Who is a resilient show. What other show could survive that? No other show could survive that. 3 unsuccessful reboots, one after the other. For the record, I just want to edit this in and put this in here. When I say unsuccessful, I mean in the eyes of the public. I have liked all 3 of these, okay? But I'm not talking about me. For once. And I suppose that's a testament to Doctor Who. That brand manager, they were on point. It is a resilient ass show. Now, I could talk about RTD comments and a bunch of little stuff, but I won't, okay? Because I think they're exaggerated and taken out of context and blah 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 blah. Point is, I love Russell T Davies. I really do. I genuinely love him, okay? And I don't really think that he, or really anyone at Bad Wolf or beyond, is to blame for things not really being too well right now. I actually feel bad for the kid, because I was looking at his wiki page and he's been on a bit of a loss streak. I really feel bad for him. The guy can't catch a break. What with Torchwood and Sarah Jane ending before their time, his move to LA, he had to come back. It's a Sin did well enough, but years and years, that one underperformed, as did Cucumber. The case of Cucumber is actually particularly sad, because that one just did so badly, but it was actually pretty damn good. And now add on to that this new Doctor Who. What a brave man. I mean, he's a tough lad, isn't he? He takes it all on the chin. That is resilience. And you know what? Say anything you want about the man, but the one thing, I will defend him forever. Blood and bone. He is never lazy, and he does make bloody good television. We will be watching, and I know you will be too. Am I crazy, or was this a bit of a Debbie Downer of a video? To be fair to me, Doctor Who's in a bit of a Debbie Downer state, but it won't always be. But you'll be watching, I'll be watching, and I'm sure there'll be some bloody damn good episodes for us to chew on as well. It's not all doom and gloom. So don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I'm going to be making reviews on every single episode, as you guys already know, and just a bunch more videos in general. It's a video bonanza, people. So join the community and join me on my journey to become the next Doctor Who showrunner. Come on, people, you already know that it's gonna happen. You know you wanna. And a massive shout out to everyone who keeps the show going, the people on Patreon and the channel members. I love you guys. But special thanks to Just Tim, Teddy Bite, Theta, Ren, Poop Criminal, Eli Rivers, AL, Watermelon Volcano, Hush, Mel, Jessica, Toby-Wan Kenobi, Bill Fleming, Melissa, Ren, Diego, Dark Tranquil, Chicky, Flip, Eric, Sixth Doctor Fan, Comfy Glitch X, Harry, Sanyu, Danny, Manny, Noah, Amara God, Tamara Senior, Dobcool, Casual Log, E West, Christian Rothfuss, Unreal Dinnerbone, Aidan Davies, Reef Edwards, Space Eve, James Holly, Amber Knight, Casey, Snarly, Connor Bell, Tom, Ertle the Turtle, and Stretch. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.